Welcome to a special crossover edition Field of 68 podcast here. Top dogs and blue blood on the main line. My name is Rob Dosh. If you're listening to this on the Villanova podcast feed, I host our UConn podcast, and I'm here with Curtis Sumpter, who Villanova. I'm going to call you a legend, man. I'm going to throw it out there. I don't know if you're comfortable with the legend tag, but I'm going to throw it out there. He hosts our Villanova podcast. It's called Blue Blood on the main line. He played there. He played for Jay Wright. So, Kurt, what's going on, man? How you doing?
I'm doing well, Rob. Thanks for having me on the show. Thanks again.
No,
for
thank you for having me on your show. This is your show.
Yeah, thanks. I'm just, it's our first show together. So, I'm just great to be hosting the show. Great to be a part of this whole Field of 68 thing you and Jeff have. It's just an amazing ride. And I can't, wait to continue to grow with you guys. But I'm glad to be on the show. I'm glad to be hosting the show, but I'm also a little uncomfortable to be called the legend in that regard. I just feel like we're just all one unit. You know how the Villanova family thinks.
Yeah, that's the most Villanova answer I've ever heard to any question that anybody's ever said. It's like they just drill that into you guys, huh?
Yeah, that's why I say, you know how the Villanova family thinks with a wink.
All right, let's talk about Villanova a little bit. I want to start off there because I think that is that conversation is a lot more interesting than I think the UConn one. Everyone knows what UConn's doing right now. Villanova obviously did not have the greatest start to the season. They lost, I think it was 5 out of 6 at one point, 4 in a row. A lot of that was due to missing pieces, right? Cam Whitmore only came back, I believe it was 4 or 5 games ago now. Justin Moore still not healthy. Obviously, the changeover, Kyle Neptune taking over for Jay. But you won 5 in a row. You smacked around St. John's a little bit last night. It looks like Villanova's starting to figure some things out here, right?
Absolutely. Like you mentioned, we just weren't whole in the beginning to start the season. We're still not whole now. We had guys who were asked to do things that they weren't asked to do before. So they had to get their reps in game-like situations. And it showed in the beginning. But at the same time, you want those guys to get those reps because towards the end of the season, they'll have those moments under their belt, and when you need them in those times, they'll be able to deliver. We knew Cam was going to be coming back off of injury. We knew Justin will be coming back soon, but we just needed to just have guys again just take those reps and get comfortable being in those situations. And we knew over time we'll get our rhythm, and you see it.
Mm-hmm. I've been telling people that once we get to about mid-January, early February, when Justin gets back, if you can give me a 5 of Justin Moore, Cam Whitmore, Caleb Daniels, Brandon Slater, and Eric Dixon, like that's as good as anybody in the conference. That's as good as maybe like 10 teams in all of college basketball this year, assuming those guys come back healthy. What's been the key to this resurgence? Is it just Cam Whitmore getting back on the floor?
I think a little bit is Cam. Let's not, disregard what he brings to that team. You instantly see his athleticism, tenacity on the glass, attacking the basket, also knocking down the shot. So he's definitely been great addition, insertion to the team. But I think you see more guys getting comfortable, the freshman class, like Mark, housing those guys, like those guys getting those early reps as freshmen and making some big time shots, going through it, making the turnovers and mistakes. That's really, really been, big for us. Eric's a junior. He's been through it. He knows how to do it, but getting those guys in the rhythm has definitely helped our team. We know what Chris is going to bring every night. As well. I mean, Caleb too. Caleb's been asked to do something more, handle the ball more, and be the lead guard, to start, which is difficult for him. I'm gonna say difficult for him, but new to him. And he's gotten better game to game. So we knew once everyone gets their rhythm and gets comfortable, we were going to be fine because the foundation still remains the same.
Mm-hmm. I've maintained that I think it's impossible to know what Kyle is as a coach at this point, right? And I think that he was almost thrown into an impossible situation. I don't know if there was a better teacher of the game than Coach Wright. And you played for him, you know this better than I do. But I think that with the way that you guys run offense, you don't run, there's not a lot of set plays, right? You're not sitting there scheming this out, saying we're going to run this double staggered here, you're going to have these three options here, right? He basically teaches you how to be a basketball player. Part of that's why it took a couple years for some guys to come in and really learn to thrive, right? It's why the development in that system and in that program is so good. But asking Kyle to come in and immediately replace one of the best teachers that we've ever seen in college basketball, when you're missing the guy that could end up being a lottery pick and the guy that was going to be your best player and probably your best ball handler, and Justin, like that is an impossible situation to ask a new coach that has literally 1 year of head coaching experience to walk into. I do not envy the situation that Kyle walked into.
No, I mean, that's everything you say is absolutely true. But Kyle is a Villanova guy. And like you said, Coach Wright is one of the best teachers. And one of the things he teaches you is that regardless of what situation is there, a positive mindset, positive attitude, and just go at it with your all. So you're not even worrying about what people are saying, the difficult situation. Like you're just blocking that out. You have straight blinders on. And that's how Kyle's approach is. And we understand that, from the brotherhood. And it's just like, all right, attitude, next play. All right, we're down a man. We were down 2-man. Okay, we got this impossible situation. Like, it doesn't matter. We were still going to do things the way we do things. But Kyle has handled everything the way I think, Coach Wright would be handling the situation, to be honest with you. You just have to manage it. I mean, these are the facts. We were young. We have a major ball handler that's out. We have an incoming freshman who's great talent, who's out, and we have young freshman guards handling the ball. So it was tough. But at the end of the day, if Coach Wright was in this situation, as we get guys back, as guys get healthy, we're gonna continue to take off, I believe.
Yeah, that's the one benefit, right? Is the NCAA tournament selection committee will always sit there and be like, yeah, they didn't have these guys for these losses, and you got to keep that in mind. And as long as you find a way to kind of figure it out down the stretch. What do you think of Mark Armstrong? I think he's as physically gifted as any guard that we've seen kind of come through. Like he's different than what Ryan and even Jalen and what Colin were, right, in terms of what his physical ability is. So what have you seen out of him that you've liked? What have you seen out of him that you think he needs to improve on? Because I think he's the guy that can take this from being like a really good team, not just this year, like long term, to being a great program great program, a great team again.
First of all, in my opinion, I think he's the most athletic point guard Villanova has ever had that I can think of or know. Like just point guard, point guard under Coach Wright, maybe before Coach Wright. Just as far as like point guard athleticism, I think it's superior to none. I think it's just him being comfortable, playing through mistakes, not worrying about am I going to be in the game, out of the game. Just understand like, okay, you're going to be playing. So just go out there and just, play your game within our style. Once you, again, play within our style, but just, let your athleticism and just take over. And I think with him, as he continues to just lock in on defense, and I think in transition, push the ball and attack the basket, like just put pressure on the paint. I think if he lives in that world, we'll be hard to guard because guys will be filling in, and then we'll see the 3-point shots start to, fall. I think now the way our offense is, we don't have those guys getting to the rim to get those good kickouts that we normally would have in previous years with all the ball handlers. So Mark is just phenomenal in the open court, which I know he can be dynamic. I think he'll just change the whole style of the team.
Yeah, because so much of what you guys want to do, and look, correct me if any of this is incorrect, because you know it better than I do. But from watching Villanova basketball, so much of what you want to do is get into the teeth of the defense that first time, right? Get a paint touch, whether it's off a post up, whether it's off a ball screen, whether it's off dribble penetration, draw that help defender, kick it out, create a closeout, get to the lane again, same thing, draw a second defender, kick it out, create a closeout, and find a way where you can either get a drive to the bucket or you get an open three for a jump shot. That's pretty much what the kind of the system is, right? And then when you don't have that first guy to create that first action to kind of set off the chain of events, that to me, that's kind of where you guys struggled early in the season, right? You couldn't get that first paint touch. You couldn't get that first guy going by the defender just because, like, Mark was a freshman. Caleb is not necessarily that initiator. You didn't have Justin. Eric Dixon, I love him, but if you're running offense through him in the post, like I don't know if you want him to be your main guy necessarily. So figuring that kind of stuff out, guys in new roles, like it took a little while.
Definitely took a while. And you mentioned, Caleb was our lead guard to start it, and an aggressive guy, but Caleb he ascends playing off of others. So, like you said, the issue, all our point guards have been told to be extremely aggressive. That's how Coach Wright wanted to guard, at least, for a long time. So, if you have that opportunity, you're going to attack the basket. If you're not going to attack the basket every time to draw, like you said, it makes things a little bit harder because you can't just post up or drive and post up, because then the defense can get set and play you better. So once we've got Mark to get a little bit better at that, as you can see from last night's game, he got to the paint and was aggressive a lot, which drew in the defense, and we were able to get some shots.
Yeah, I think that last night really, to me, said a lot, right? That St. John's is kind of, I mean, we saw, even when you had Colin at the point, was it 2021 when St. John's beat Villanova by 20 or something like that in their building?
Yeah.
It's with the way that they can guard, they're a difficult matchup for anyone. And I kind of circled that game. I was like, we don't know if they, like, point guard question marks at Villanova going up against Posh Alexander. That's tough, man. I mean, look, you're from New York. You know how those New York kids operate, and they got a bunch of those guys in the backcourt. And I mean, you're down 10. What are you thinking when St. John's is up by 10 in the fin? What are you thinking in that moment?
I'm gonna tell you right now. So I felt like I immediately, started hearing Coach Wright's voice and, previous scouting reports and things of that, of teams we played who, would try to play that way. But then it didn't last long. And I realized why teams never played us that way. Even when I was playing, they never pressed us because it was detrimental to their offense. And again, it was just guys on our end getting more comfortable against the press, because in order to beat that press, you just have to attack it. And it's not about trying to run offense during that press, because that's where they want you to do, and that's where they excel and you get steals. So it was just the guys just attacking it, kicking ahead, and attacking the basket. And before you know it, the St. John's guys were deflated because their defense never got settled really to get back and trap and get to. We were just moving that thing a little bit once guys got settled, and then we were able to eliminate what they were trying to do.
Yeah. What do you think of Kyle's suit game at this point? He's up there, man. Look, I don't know if anyone's ever gonna touch Jay Wright when it comes to the sideline fashion, but if it's gonna be anybody, it might be Kyle Neptune.
I mean, he's from Brooklyn. I'm not. That's enough said. He's from Brooklyn. I don't expect anything less. I mean, Coach Wright, I mean, he left Philly and spent a lot of time in New York. So I'm sure some of that New York, sprinkled on him too. But I don't expect anything less from a New York guy, Brooklyn guy like Kyle, cut from the same cloth.
What do you how do you think Jay's been doing? Have you seen any of his games on CBS, any of the stuff that he's done on TV? I think he's doing pretty well.
He's doing pretty well. A couple of times at the beginning, I caught him saying "we," which made me feel good, but I know he probably couldn't say that. But it was different though. The first time I heard him, I was like, "Ooh, this is weird. This is weird." I felt like I was in one of those film sessions. At the same time, I was like, this is where he's at, and it looked different seeing him in a CBS sports coat. That was kind of unique, but he's happy. His wife's happy, and that's good. I mean, he can sit back now and see what he's built. Like it's you put your kids through school and through life, and now you can sit back and watch them manage their own family. So I guess that's where he's at right now. We can.
He's built for TV. Like he just the way that he can kind of interact and the way that he doesn't really take things too serious. Like he can have fun, he can joke around, he can laugh about stuff. And like so I'll just turn it back to UConn, right? We had a legend, Jim Calhoun, try to go into TV. No one could understand what he was saying. Like you got that Boston accent came out, and once he gets riled
Yeah.
up, he gets excited. It's just kind of like, wait, what is that? Are you speaking? Is
Yeah,
this
yeah.
English? What's happening here? Jay doesn't have that
No,
issue.
that's funny. But yeah, I used to always say, even when Coach Wright first started recruiting me, all the coaches at that time, top level coaches, were a little older, and they presented themselves in an older way. Coach Wright presented himself the same way he presents himself now. I mean, he wasn't coming around in suits or anything like that, but you could see him in his nice casual wear, some denim on. I was like, this guy's like, I feel like he's like a politician. I mean, he can't be a coach. Like something just about him is different. But at the time he was at Hofstra, there was no way going to Hofstra, but he was creating those relationships like you spoke about. And then once he got the Villanova job, I wanted to just kind of, talk to him more a little bit and see what he was about because I was like, this dude is different than all the other coaches. But yeah, he's just his own guy, man.
Mhm.
I almost was a Husky, just so you know. Almost was a Husky.
Yeah, it would have been you would have fit in real well there. So I'll talk a little bit about just kind of what happened in UConn's last game, right? So they get Georgetown at home. It's the last game before Thanksgiving before Christmas break, right? Georgetown hasn't beaten a high major opponent the last 27 times that they've played a high major opponent.
Oh,
Obviously, this has not been a great end to the well, I don't want to say end, but it has not been a great last couple of years for Patrick Ewing at his alma mater. So
yes.
UConn started out the season 12-0. They hadn't beat anybody by less than double figures. They cover the spread in every single game that they had played so far this season. There's a reason why they were number one on KenPom, number two in the AP poll, and why they're one of three undefeated teams left in America. And when Georgetown came in, I think that you kind of saw the impact of what happens when UConn's not entirely locked in and the effort isn't what you need it to be, right? Um, it's you read your press clippings a little bit. You want to get home to see your family for Christmas. You're just like, all right, we get through this game, and then we can go see everybody and we can celebrate, and we don't have to worry about anything for a couple days. You get those couple days off. I think that we saw that impact on UConn right there. And the thing about them is, Kurt, I've explained this to people that listen to this podcast. What the reason why UConn is really good right now is because they are elite, probably the best in the country at the things that you're able to control. The effort that they play with, which leads to a great defensive team. Like you're going to be really impressed when you see these guys. They guard, their rotations are on point. They hedge hard every single ball screen, and the guy like the weak side tagger, like they just move in
It's
sync every single time, every
old
single
school
possession.
ball. Okay.
Yeah, and they're tough defensively. They're gonna get after you. They got a kid named Andre Jackson, who is probably the best athlete and for my money, the best defender in all of college basketball. They're elite on the
I like
offensive
them too.
glass. They're
Mhm.
elite on the defensive glass. Like they do all of those things that you can control, all of those things that effort and intensity and willpower allow you to be great at. And for the first about 30 minutes, it wasn't there against Georgetown, right? If you can get UConn to play a half court game where you have to rely on playmaking, where you have to rely on guys breaking people down on the dribble, where you have to rely on Adama Sanogo post. I love them. Post touches 8 feet from the basket are not the most efficient way to score in the modern game. If you can get UConn to play a half court game, not let them get on the offensive glass. They didn't get an offensive rebound for the first 32 minutes of that game, right? And if you can get them to play that way, you can beat them because that's not the kind of team that Coach Hurley has built. They're not super skilled offensively, right? They're great at running their stuff, they're great at running their sets, but they're going to win through defense, through getting on the glass, through living in transition, and through the effort plays and energy and the confidence that comes from playing that way, right? I mean, you could speak to this, Kurt, right? When you get a couple stops in a row, and all of a sudden the crowd's behind you a little bit. All of a sudden you're getting out in transition. All of a sudden you're getting catch and shoot open threes. Like those shots go in a little bit easier once you're playing well,
Sure.
as opposed to
Mm-hmm.
like you can get an open look and you guys aren't getting anything going. You haven't scored in a couple minutes. It's a little bit tougher to shoot that.
Absolutely, absolutely. That basket is, well, I think the basket, the rim is what, 10 inches wide, 13 inches wide, something like that. It's like 20 feet wide. You know, when the team is rolling like that. So I totally get it. And like you said, like UConn is a team that's not built, like you said, for the half court. They're going to use their athleticism to get out there and rebound. They've always been a team like that, essentially. They've just always, I feel like, just had more bigs than everybody and could just dominate, like you said, the glass. But I think if Villanova or whoever they play just maybe, like you said, put a little pressure on them. I didn't see the Georgetown game, but if Georgetown probably pressed them a little bit just to kind of maybe take the time off the clock, maybe not so much of an aggressive press because they do have athletes. That probably, helped them a little bit to their advantage and making them play some half court offense and then was able to, get on the glass. Because I know Georgetown usually has some size usually as well. So was able to probably match them on the boards a little bit.
Yeah, that was the big thing, right? They were able to keep them off the offensive glass. So UConn they missed a couple shots, but there was no second chance points. And so what kept
Yeah.
them afloat, as weird as it sounds, they were lucky. They made 9 of 16 threes in the first half, and they were lucky to be up by 7. It sounds weird saying that with Georgetown coming in. That's kind of what it was. So this matchup with Villanova, I think, is going to be fascinating because I think that Villanova actually is one of the teams that has like the length and athleticism along the wings to be able to match up with UConn size. And then Dixon is just like he might he's listed at what 6'8". I don't know if I buy that he's like 6'6.5" maybe. But that dude,
he's like 6'7",
yeah, that
6'6" and 8 3/4. Yeah.
my man has Christmas hams for calves. He's never he hasn't missed a leg day since he was 4 years old. And what he could just kind of like wedge you out, right? Like you can't post him up. You can't get position on him. That he's the strongest dude when it comes to leverage. I don't know if there's a dude that has more leverage in America than Eric Dixon. He just knows how to like wedge you out and not let you get to your spot.
I agree. I mean, he shout out to Shaq Fit, John Shackleton, the strength and conditioning coach at Villanova. But when Eric came there, Eric was still a big dude, but he's toned that up into muscles now. Like you walk around like he's still that big guy, but you see muscles, you see pecs, you see cuts, and and
he went from being a big
he's
dude
a hard
to now he's
guy
a
to
big
move.
dude, but he's got the bicep vein, right? Like that's the difference.
Bicep game, and now his confidence is coming with his game, and he's a tough guy to post up. So, a more lengthier, slimmer guy, quicker guy might have an advantage, playing a face-up game against him. But against UConn, I think that's a matchup you guys don't want as far as post-ups for Sunoco. But at the same time, Eric can match some of that, But on the vice versa, it might, your guy has the length to, as well as play Eric. So it's going to be a fun back and forth game. We'll see who plays well in that matchup, but I'm looking forward to seeing them both guys play.
Yeah, so I think that there's going to be two really interesting things to me here in terms of this matchup, right? So UConn defensively, one of their mantras is don't let people shoot threes, right? They're third nationally in the percentage of field goal attempts that are 2-pointers. Almost 75% of an opponent's field goal attempts come from inside the arc. And compare that to Villanova this season, almost 50% of their field goal attempts have been 3-pointers. So one of the core tenets of Villanova's offense is we're going to shoot threes, right? One of the core tenets of UConn's defense is we're not going to let you get threes off. So that battle is going to be fascinating to me. And the other one is going to be can Villanova avoid like the pick 6 turnovers? You know what I mean? Like, can they avoid a pass to a wing that gets jumped and Andre Jackson goes and gets a layup at the other end? Can they avoid someone getting their pocket picked and they go and you get a layup at the other end? Those are the things that kind of get UConn going. So to me, those are the two really, really interesting matchups. And the biggest thing, and you can attest to this, man, when a ball goes in the basket, right? And you got to go take it out of bounds and inbound it. It's so much more difficult to get in transition than if you get a miss and you kind of get all of a sudden, boom, there's a 2-on-1, boom, there's a 3-on-2, boom, you got a lob coming in, boom, you got a dunk, boom, you got a wide open 3. All of a sudden, this team's got energy, this team's got momentum, shots start going in. It gets a little bit tougher to score on them. You got that XL Center crowd, 16,000 people yelling at you. Those are the things you got to avoid, I think, in this game.
Absolutely, absolutely. Villanova is definitely going to have to use that pressure the same way they use the pressure against St. John's, against UConn. If they want to jump those passer lanes, those are perfect opportunities to get back doors. With the way we run offense anyway, we kind of, play off read and react situations, uh, leave a spot, fill a spot. So, I mean, it would probably be a lot more one-on-one if UConn is going to be that aggressive. But guys just have to play aggressive. And I think if they keep teams to play aggressive, we will have good opportunities. It might be, one of those low scoring old school Big East games where, it's both teams living at the free throw line, both teams, guys are in foul trouble. You can see it being like one of those games because I know Villanova's not going to back down defensively. And when you got two teams who are defensive minded like that, you might have one of those games where it might be high in fouls.
Yeah, I think Villanova's going to want this game to be played in like the low 60s, right? If
Yeah,
this
you
game gets
definitely
up
want the
around
low
like
score.
75, if you're seeing 40 points and a half, that plays right into UConn's hands.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. Anything I want it to be a 56-60 win or something like that. I mean, for me personally, but that's right where it needs to be. Strategy. It has to be a chess match. This team in the last couple years, even when they weren't in the Big East, played us well. It's like this team was even when we were dominating, it was like this team and the way Coach Hurley prepares them and how his style, it is one of those tests. Like it reminds me of the old school. I feel like when we used to play like Pittsburgh, like I felt like when we played Pittsburgh, even more than when we played UConn, I felt like it was just we was able to still get our offense and kind of do what we, a little bit with UConn. But Pittsburgh was like, listen, this game is going to be a fight, you know. And I just feel like these two teams are going to probably bring back that, these two programs are going to start to bring back that old Big East feel. I'm glad that UConn are back, man. I can't even tell you. I'm excited.
Who was on the Pitt teams that you played against? Was that like Brandon Knight and Levance Fields? Like
Wow.
those teams? Chris
Played
Taft?
against my freshman year was Brandon Knight, Josh Page, Brown, Lett. Sophomore year was Paul Prowser, Chevon Troutman, and those guys. Then it was, I don't think I played. I didn't get. I played against Levance Field my 5th year. Yeah, because I was there. But Levance Field's from my neighborhood back home in Brooklyn. Like Levance and I, we played on summer league basketball in Brownsville. Like that's still my guy. And so it was. But those were the pit teams. Like they were tough New York City guards, Cliff Taft, who you knew, it was not going to be an easy match. So yeah, shout out to the old Pittsburgh squad too, Levance Field,
Those
Brownsville.
teams, they always had point guards that were like 5'10", 5'11", that looked kind of like Levance Fields, kind of like a bowling ball, right? Like he didn't look like the most athletic dude. He wasn't going to dunk on you. But Carl Krauser, same way. They just found a way to get into the lane and found a way to finish around the bucket, even if there's like 6'10" guys all around them, right? That's kind of hey, look, that's what a New York City guard is, right?
New
You
York
just
City
find a way to
guard
get in the
is
lane. There's no way you should be as quick as you are right now. You're getting by people. It's the floaters that go over the top of the backboard, right?
yeah. Oh my God, like that is a New York City guard. Like you said it yourself. And that's why they were as good as they were. I mean, they could get in the lane and they were the engines to their teams. I mean, Pittsburgh was essentially like Villanova was headed by their point guard. Their point guard was always the lead guy, and the toughest guy on the team. basketball wise and probably physically, and Levance, shout out Levance Phil. Like I said, I've known him my whole entire life. Levance has always been that size. Since he was like 5 years old, you would see this kid walk around and say, "You're gonna be something." And he excelled at everything, whether baseball, basketball, football. Levance is a beast, like literally, he's a bulldog.
He should have
And
been a running back, man. Just
yeah,
imagine him as like your second down running back, right?
even in summer league this summer, Levance still running guys, dude. He still got it, so he still got game. Still got game.
Because he doesn't have to change, man. What's got to change, right? You're still never going to be able to take the ball off him. He's still going to be able to body
still
you.
got game. Yeah,
Yeah, that flow game's not going away, man. That flow game's not going away. Listen, Kurt,
nope.
This was fun, man. I always enjoy talking to you. I always enjoy catching up. I am going to, with the exception of what is it? Wednesday that they play, with the exception of Wednesday.
28th. Yeah, 28th was it?
The 28th. I'm going to be a big Villanova fan this season because I think one, having them good is just good for the Big East and good for college basketball in general. And two, the Big East we can't have like 3 tournament teams from this conference, man. We need Villanova to make a run. We need Villanova to figure it out. We need Creighton to figure it out. And if those 2 teams figure it out, I think that Marquette and Xavier are good enough to be in the tournament. And I still think Providence is going to find a way to get into the dance. 6 teams from the Big East. I think it can happen. So I need Villanova to put this thing together. Yeah, I think it happens, man. I think it happens. You can we'll start that winning streak after Wednesday though. Right?
Sure. This year, like you said, like this year, the Big East is going to be very, very tough. But we're used to having 6, 7 teams in a tournament. This year might be different, but I think other than UConn, who seems to be having rolling right now, the other teams will figure it out. And St. John's, matter of fact, let's not forget St. John's is doing pretty well. If they can continue that, it would be good too, I think, for college basketball to see St. John's in the tournament as well. But I think those teams that you mentioned, Villanova, Creighton, and those guys, and maybe Providence can get it going. It'll still keep the Big East as one of the top conferences in America.
Yeah, Bryce Hopkins, 29 and 23 the other night, which is per my sources, that's pretty good. Do you ever have a 29 and 23 game at any level?
No, I've never had. I said it to myself the other day. I don't know why I was in a discussion, but I've never had a 20 rebound game. I had 19 before in high school, but I never broke the 20 rebound, which I'm like, damn, that would have been kind of nice.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, listen, Kurt, this was fun. Blue Blood on the main line, Top Dogs, Field of 68, crossover episode. We're gonna be enemies until Thursday morning. Thursday morning we'll make up, but until then, it's it's not gonna be much Christmas spirit here, Kurt.
Sure, for sure, definitely. I'm gonna make sure I give you a call, and I'll make sure I'm gonna be sympathetic to you. All right.
All right, man.
Thanks, Rob. Man, I appreciate it.